West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, it's Tuesday, July 22nd. Hello, hello, hello. Great to see you today, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on a Tuesday morning. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, on our studio on Capitol Hill, and reaching out to you on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. Free Speech TV everywhere in this country, and TawkrTV all around the globe, TAWKR-TV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. The two big stories of the day remain in the Ukraine. International inspectors have finally been allowed into the crash site of MH17, even though we've seen video that much of the evidence has been tampered with. Meanwhile, the bodies of those 298 victims, most of them, have finally left the area on board a train to central Ukraine, from where they will be flown to the Netherlands for identification and return to the families. And today, European ministers meet to consider their own tough sanctions against Russia. President Obama yesterday again pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin as the man chiefly responsible. In Gaza, the fighting continues. The death toll is now up to 583 Palestinians killed, including 120 children and many civilians. With Israel, 27 Israeli soldiers have now been killed. John Kerry, Secretary of State, is in Cairo trying to get parties together to agree to a ceasefire, perhaps an impossible and hopeless task. And meanwhile, back here in Washington, the Congress is very busy. I mean, they're very, very busy trying to decide how they are going to spend the next 2 weeks doing nothing before they take an August break to do absolutely nothing for an entire month. So whether they're here or there, they do nothing. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Join the program. Glad to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
International investigators finally given access to the crash site in eastern Ukraine. Yeah, thanks a lot, Vladimir. Hey, what do you say? Good morning, everybody. Great to see you today. And a happy Tuesday, July 22nd. Here we go. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. We are here in Washington, D.C., your nation's capital. We are on top of all the news of the day, bringing you the latest from Washington, D.C., from around the country and around the globe. Bringing you up to date on everything that's going on, and most importantly, giving you a chance to react and to tell us what it all means to you. We're here with you on your local progressive talk radio station. Great to see you on this Tuesday. Great to join you on the TuneIn app. If you don't have a progressive radio station near where you live, just go to TuneIn, download it. It's free. TuneIn. And then on the Progressive Voices channel, that's where we are. And for the visually inclined, we're there on TV as well, on Free Speech TV. Happy to be here with you all across the country on Free Speech TV and around the globe on our video stream. TawkrTV, TAWKR TV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And here we are, ready to mix it up this morning with our team. Peter Ogburn, stifling a yawn. It's already
good morning, Bill.
It's early in the morning here.
It's a touch early. I'm still getting ramped up here.
Yes, good morning.
I'm ready to go.
Sorry to disturb your sleep here this morning. I hope Elisa Murphy's awake. At least somebody will keep us going here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Busted.
Yes. Elise, it's okay until the host yawns.
Yeah, right.
Alicia Cruz will have the phones covered, be waiting for your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolden, let's hope he doesn't fall asleep at the switch.
Oh, he's wide awake.
Oh, man.
He's wide awake.
Otherwise, the lights go out, the cameras go dead, and we wouldn't be out there with you as we are on Free Speech TV, thanks to our videographer, Cyprian, and on TawkrTV as well. Hillary Clinton's out there very, very busy on her book tour.
Book tour,
right. And everybody asking the question, well, is she going to run or not? Is she going to run or not? Well, let's ask somebody who really knows. And they asked Bill Clinton, and he says, I don't have a clue. Conan O'Brien has his take on that last night.
In a new interview, Bill Clinton said he doesn't know if his wife's going to run for president. Doesn't know. Yeah. Clinton said, I don't know what she's up to. And thank God she doesn't know what I'm up to.
Oh, he will always have that reputation, well-deserved or not, and probably well-deserved.
Yeah, living that one down.
Okay. On a Tuesday, Arthur Delaney here, as always, from the Huffington Post. I hate to break the news, but Igor Volsky under the weather this morning.
Won't be joining us, man.
I mean, like in 25 years, it's the first Tuesday without Igor. Seems that way. David Martin covers the Pentagon for CBS News. Will be here as well this morning. And we'll be talking to a representative from the Human Rights Campaign Fund about the big executive order President Obama signed yesterday. Those three and a lot of other guests coming up this morning. And you, of course, when you chime in by phone or by email. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news, groundbreaking, earth-shattering news.
Fix my martini here while you're...
Please do. Please do. That helps keep you awake, I understand. From the fast food industry, a huge new story. Five Guys is testing milkshakes. They are going to start making milkshakes. They've already started at 2 locations in New York City, one in Virginia and one in New Jersey.
It's a logical step.
Right. The plan is that they are going to roll these out nationwide after a test. What they're doing is you order a vanilla milkshake, and then you can add in whatever you want to add, including chocolate. If you want to make it a chocolate, they have sour cherries, malted milk, coffee, and bacon.
What?
If you want to put bacon in your milkshake. Again, it's going to be rolling out nationwide eventually, but they're just testing it now in a couple of locations.
I always have the little bacon cheeseburger.
That's right.
At Five Guys, but I don't want bacon in my milkshake.
I don't want bacon in my milkshake either, but I have a feeling there are a lot of people who will just to say that they did.
Just to try it, maybe.
Sure.
It's the new rave.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't turn it down if someone handed me a bacon.
I'm down with milkshakes.
Sure.
As long as it doesn't hold the line up.
Their whole thing is simplicity, right? They just do burgers, fries, and hot dogs.
Yeah.
So now they're going to do milkshake.
I guess okay. Again, as long as it doesn't slow down the line.
I hear you.
No.
So you're giving it your blessing.
For now. Yeah.
Till there's a line.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. The American World Airline Awards was put out at the Farnborough International Air Show in Great Britain. Here's the big story, right? Buried in this whole thing. Turns out America's airlines are the most profitable of any country around the world. That's great, right? Here's the problem. We are also the least comfortable.
No, really?
Of all across the world.
And the most expensive, probably.
And the most expensive, and a lot of it. We tack on a lot more extras than other places do, which is why we have the most profitable airlines. And again,
but the least comfortable.
Least comfortable seats, most annoying check-in process.
No more blankets.
No more blankets, no more little pillows.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah. And congratulations to Netflix. They unveiled their quarterly subscriber information. They added 1.7 million new subscribers in their last quarter, which puts them past 50 million subscribers.
Whoa.
For the first time. That is a huge number. Of those 50 million, 36.2 have subscribed to the streaming-only service. The other 14 million or so, they still get the DVDs in the mail, but a large majority just use the streaming service now.
Boy, what a hugely successful service, huh? Yeah. All right. Peter, thanks for getting us off to a good start. Yes, indeed, the latest on the immigration front. We'll be talking a lot about Gaza and Ukraine a little bit later. But the latest on the border is a problem solved. No more problem at the border because Rick Perry has stepped up. This guy, man, he wants to be president so bad. He'll do anything to get his name in the papers. Yesterday he said, I'm going to fix the problem at the border. I've ignored it for the last, 8-10 years he's been governor. But I'm sending in the National Guard.
Today, I am using my executive authority as governor of Texas and activating the National Guard.
Whoop, whoop, you do. Do you think John Boehner will sue him for using his doing it by executive order?
There you go, yeah.
That's a good question.
Maybe if somebody ought to sue him for that. And Rick Perry says, here's what it's all about. Here's why I'm sending these guys there.
The National Guard troops that I am deploying will support the state-led border surge by acting as a force multiplier on the ground and providing additional air assets beyond their current efforts.
Now, first of all, this is so stupid. It's so stupid. But he's so dumb, he doesn't even realize probably how stupid it is. First, so I mean, let's look at the logic here. Republicans are probably going to say Rick Perry. In fact, I've seen on Fox News this morning they're saying he's the real hero. He's standing up where President Obama would not stand up. Okay, so he's sending 1,000 Texas National Guard people to the border, extra agents. In the comprehensive immigration reform bill that President Obama has put in front of Congress, that passed the Senate, that John Boehner and Republicans will not allow a vote on in the House, that includes 20,000 new agents at the border. So you would think if they want more agents at the border, they would just let Rick Perry send 1,000 National Guard. They passed the damn bill, which would send 20,000, if they think that's going to solve the problem. But that's not the answer to the problem. With this humanitarian crisis at the border today, with these 50 now, they're saying 57,000 kids. And by the way, Josh Earnest told us yesterday at the White House that the number of kids coming across has really gone down from 350 a day in June to like about 150 a day today, which is still too many. But again, the problem is not that they need more guards to stop these kids from coming across. These kids are coming across and they're they are looking for guards to turn themselves into. They want to be caught. They want to be apprehended. That's the whole point of it. So you don't need more guards there. What you need is more judges to handle these, to speed up the process of their deportation hearings. And you need more help at these detention centers to take care of these children while they're waiting. So the Republicans are off again on another tangent, which gets to my point that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this morning, which is, for me, this whole battle over immigration and watching Republicans dig their heels in and refuse to do anything about it, and in fact attack the whole Latino community by their refusal to act. To me, it is so deja vu. I've seen this movie before, friends. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what happened in California. You may know this story. I mean, it was almost impossible to get the Latino community interested in getting in politics. I mean, I personally ran voter registration drives in East Los Angeles, and people just distrusted the government so much they wanted nothing to do with us. Plus, we were afraid that if some of them, when they did register, a lot of them would register as Republicans because they're they're a Catholic community, they're very pro-family, they're very pro-small business, so we knew we had a little problem there, we might not get them. And then came 1994. 1994, Pete Wilson, Republican governor running for re-election, endorsed an anti-immigrant initiative, Proposition 187. And he did what we had never been able to do. He woke up the sleeping giant. And Latinos came out in millions and registered to vote. And guess what? Because Pete Wilson had declared war on them, they registered to vote as Democrats. And the result is there's almost no Republican Party in California today. It's almost non-existent. Governor Jerry Brown and every single one of the statewide officers today are Democrats. Democrats hold a majority, a 2/3 majority in the Assembly and in the Senate. And no Republican presidential candidate has carried California since 1994. So, I mean, hello, right? I mean, 96 was our first presidential after 94. I mean, don't they get it? And look what's happening today here in Washington at the national level. They're making the same mistake. They're doing the same thing. There are some Republicans like George W. Bush, Jeb Bush, Lindsey Graham, who recognize this and say, hey, Republican Party better be out there taking the lead on immigration, or we're going to be really hurting when it comes to the fastest growing segment of the American electorate, namely the Latino vote, the Latino community. Some Republicans are saying that. But their party is being led today by the Tea Partiers who think the only good Mexican is one who's the only good Latinos is one who's on a bus back to Mexico. They're refusing to do anything. John Boehner is listening only to them, won't even schedule a vote on this issue. And this is going to come back and bite them in the ass politically, nationwide, the same way it did in California. That you can just see it happening. In fact, it already has. George Bush got 44% of the Latino vote in 2004. John McCain got 38% in 2008. And Mitt Romney got 27% in 2012. And the way John Boehner is going, whoever the Republican nominee is in 2016, is going to get even less of the vote. It is just it's colossally stupid on their part. You know, in politics, there's also sometimes a difference between the right thing to do and the politically smart thing to do. Right? I mean, take same-sex marriage. For a long time, Democrats knew that the right thing to do was to say, of course they can get married, doesn't matter whether they're gay or straight. But politically, might not have been so smart because it might have hurt them, right, even in a Democratic primary. Well, that's changed, of course. But with immigration, it's always been, the two have always been one and the same. With immigration, the right thing to do is to pass comprehensive immigration reform, and the politically smart thing to do is to pass comprehensive immigration reform to show that at least some awareness of the problem and some willingness to deal with the problem and take the Latino community seriously. Republicans under John Boehner can just continue to refuse to do so. I have a column about this in The Hill this morning. GOP forgets the lesson of 1994. And I quote there, as John F. Kennedy was fond of quoting, the philosopher George Santayana, who said, quote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And you wouldn't believe, after what happened in 1994, Republicans would make the same damn dumb mistake again. But they are making that mistake today. As I say, I look at it and say, hey, guys, didn't you learn anything in 1994? Apparently not. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here this Tuesday morning on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Arthur Delaney, Huffington Post, joins us in the next half hour. After all, it is Tuesday morning, talking about Republicans making the same dumb mistake here in 2014 that they made in 1994. 20 years, haven't learned a damn thing. It's just astounding to me why aren't there some wiser heads in the Republican Party? Don't call up John Boehner and say, John Boehner, what are you doing to us? Why are you doing this to us? Why are we making ourselves a losing party by just refusing to do anything at all on immigration reform? It's the right thing to do, and it's a politically smart thing to do.
That's what gets me, right? Compassion aside, these people are political animals. They want to stay alive.
They should do it out of compassion. They should also do it out of their own self-interest.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Davis is in Radford, Virginia. Hello, Davis. Good morning.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning. Yes, the only way that poor people and people of color, Latinos, can get ahead is by public education. And the Republicans are completely against public education.
Well, that too. Yeah.
And so Latinos should not vote Republican. They need to be active. I've seen a bumper sticker that said that a poor person voting for Republican is like a chicken voting for Colonel Sanders.
Actually, I appreciate it, Davis. That quote, I didn't know the bumper sticker doesn't give credit. That quote is from the father of the former Republican congressman from Oklahoma,
J.C. Watts.
J.C. Watts.
Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, he used to call me that. It's his father who said that an African-American who votes for Republicans is like a chicken voting for Colonel Sanders. But the same point. Well, good for Democrats, but bad for the country if Republicans continue.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
About 33 minutes after the hour now on Tuesday, July 22nd. So good to see you today. We are live from our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill. Brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers Union. You get that? Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers Union. Put them together. They're the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro. For more information about their good work, go to their website, smart-union.org. We love Tuesdays here around the Bill Press Show. Number one, because it gets us one more step closer to the end of the week. And number two, because we welcome Arthur Delaney from the Huffington Post and editor of HuffPost Hill. Arthur, good morning.
So I'm second to the slow march of time.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
Tuesdays are one day better than Mondays, right? Yeah, that's right. Thank you for speeding things along.
You know what?
How's it going?
Why do we work for 5 days? Did you know that Carlos Slim came out in favor of the 3-day week?
As reported by Peter Ogburn yesterday.
You've heard the 4-day week, but the 3-day week is something totally new.
Why? I've always wondered, where is the movement for a longer weekend? Because people like longer weekends, and it used to be an actual labor movement, shorter hours. And we've just been stuck with a 5-day work week since World War II.
Well, but we got down to 40 hours and 5-day work week, right? And everybody just sort of said, okay, we'll stop right there.
Well, it's an accident of history that we have health insurance linked up with jobs because of World War II price controls. And so I think that's the biggest obstacle to 40 hours.
Yeah, but some people have gone to the 4-day work week, working 10 hours a day, 4 days a week, instead of 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Some people, some businesses allow that.
Right, and that has, you commute less, you have more time at home. But I'm talking about actual less working.
I'm all for it.
I think that's what Carlos Slim is talking about.
I am all for it. And every year I say, when I renew my contract, I'm going to have a 4-day week. What's Howard Stern?
Howard Stern.
What is he? He works like 2 days a week.
He's like 2 days a week at this point.
Yeah,
it would reduce unemployment. Because the flip side is overemployment. And this week in Huffington Post, we're updating a poll we did last year where we asked people, would you work 20% less for 20% less pay, which is 1 day off additional per week. And 18% of people said yes. If we had 18% unemployment, people would be flipping out and running around with their hair on fire. But if we have any degree of overemployment, no one even considers it.
All right, here's the big question that I have not resolved. Okay, I deal with it. If I were to go to a 4-day work week, do I want Mondays off or Fridays?
Oh, you've got to kill Monday. Monday is it not the most hated day?
I go Friday. Because you start early and then it just carries right on through, and then by the time Monday gets around, you've had a full 3 days.
I realize this could change in an instant if it's no longer the custom that you hate Monday, but wouldn't everyone love to kill Monday? And don't you already savor your Friday? Isn't it already kind of easy if you're going to work and Friday's your last day? Don't you kind of feel like it's a goof day?
Yeah, but then that would become Thursday.
That's what I'm saying.
That would become Thursday. So then Thursday becomes your throwaway.
I think the first 1 or 2 weeks of this new Delaney 4-day work week would be so sweet. Garfield the cat would be put out of business. So it's not that there are no economic costs. Jim Davis would be hobbled in his ability to transmute the American psyche into an orange cat.
Well, I think we have to give this some. I think we started something here. I think we're on to something. We have to give this some more serious thought, and then we can start a movement between the Bill Press Show and Huffington Post.
Seriously, man.
Yes, we can.
Yes, and move to the 4-day work week. Started right here.
We're laughing, but I am so deadly serious that I want to kill Monday. Deadly serious.
All right, it'll be the Kill Monday movement.
Yes.
All right. So there are some more serious things going on in the world. The Senate about to vote tomorrow. You've been reporting on
the Bring Jobs Home Act,
which is how do they do that? Tax breaks for companies that bring jobs home, or what's the deal?
Maybe you remember from 2012 when President Obama was dueling with a man named Mitt Romney, who was associated with all these businesses and these strange tax schemes. And this was the Bring Jobs Home Act, which would punish companies, no longer reward companies that ship jobs overseas, which is like one of the favorite things Democrats can say, that it's bad when companies ship jobs overseas because you get a tax break for moving expenses. And they want to create a tax, so they'll get rid of that and create one.
An incentive for bringing them back.
Right. And this, honestly, it doesn't get a ton of attention except in local papers and local TV stations. And if you look at the local TV in the Northeast right now, every market's got its own story on their senator, their Democratic senator, being a part of this bill. And here in Washington, we just kind of laugh at it because economists say, well, the global economy, firstly, is not a zero-sum game in which a job overseas automatically means a job is destroyed at home. And the other reason it gets little attention is that it has so little chance of passing, even though a handful of Republicans will support it, that the media sort of snoozes when it comes around. It's an election year thing.
But it is. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. It is a serious problem, isn't it? I mean, company after company after company has taken these jobs, shipped them overseas, to use that phrase, because they're able to pay people less.
Right.
And then avoid paying taxes in the United States.
Right, and another criticism of this legislation I've read, and I should admit I'm really not an expert on it, is that you create these new tax incentives. Well, companies will just do the weird stuff that they already do to take advantage of it, and it doesn't necessarily create a job because these companies' schemes are so clever. For instance, you're hearing a lot about inversions in which companies merge with an overseas firm in order to avoid new taxes coming down the pike. That's something that's getting more attention in a more serious way right now in congressional committees. So it's sort of dodgy, but it's an important debate, and people ought to know more about it. But the legislation probably will not become law, even though the Senate Democrats are making a big deal out of it.
You have told us, we've talked before when you've been in, about Paul Ryan, who has discovered poverty as an issue, and he is coming out this week with, he's been going around holding meetings on poverty. While his budget cuts every poverty program
He's
that ever
been
existed,
meeting with poor people
How about
and
that?
looking at them.
And maybe even having a meal with them. And he's coming out with his recommendations as to what we ought to do about poverty this week. Like what?
Well, so
what's he proposed?
in case you
other
have-
than cutting out food stamps, cutting out Medicaid and all those other programs, what else does he want?
It's great that you point that out, because you may have Paul Ryan proposal fatigue, because for 5 years in a row, he's had a path to prosperity or whatever it's called that particular year. And it has actually been basically the same stuff over and over, especially cutting food stamps. His famous Medicare proposal to voucherize.
Cutting any program that would help the poor. So is this what we're going to see this week? More of the same?
Well, we don't know yet. They haven't said what it will be, except that it will be something new. The budgets that he's done have been designed to reflect the will of other Republicans in Congress. And what his office has said is that this forthcoming thing is supposed to be the fruit of Paul Ryan's journey throughout America's ghettos. And it reflects the thinking of Paul Ryan, the individual, and not the Republican conference and the House of Representatives. So it could be something interesting. It could be to undo what he calls the poverty trap, which is when programs for poor people, you become ineligible for them when you become less poor. And he calls that a poverty trap because it's effectively a tax when these programs phase out. How would you address that? Well, one way, and this would be sort of surprising if it's Paul Ryan's way, is to make them more generous so that they phase out more slowly as your income rises. Another way is to just make them a lot less generous.
Yeah. How about paying them? How about raising the minimum wage? That would get a lot of them out of poverty. Let me tell you, I'm very skeptical that he's going to come up with anything. But you know what? What strikes me is just hearing you talk about Paul Ryan is, like the other day we did a story. We were talking about Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Peter, remember. And making the point that if you added up all the other potential Republican candidates, I believe that Chris Christie is a bigger threat because he's more a better retail politician.
A threat to whom? The Democratic nominee?
Party, right. Despite the bridge scandal, I still think he would be their strongest candidate. But my point is, we listed 6 or 8 Republican candidates or potential Republican candidates for president. And I realized, listening to you, that Paul Ryan was not even on the list.
Well, he's kept quiet.
Now, remember?
Yeah.
We talked about Rick Perry. We talked about Bobby Jindal and Rick Santorum.
We even threw Huckabee on the list.
We had Huckabee on the list, not Rick Santorum.
Well, here's
not
why.
Paul Ryan. Nobody takes him seriously anymore.
Well, unlike these other dudes who wade into whatever's happening at the moment, Ukraine, Israel, Paul Ryan has been relatively hunkered down, and he has actually spent time, as when I say it, it almost sounds untrue, like maybe it's a joke. He has actually gone to about a dozen different bad neighborhoods or places where poor people have been getting help across the country. I think he's deliberately laying low and staying out of these more high-profile debates so that he appears to have been truly thoughtful on this forthcoming proposal, though it's totally out of the news cycle, poverty.
Let me just cut through the crap here, okay? I just want to say, when Paul Ryan comes up with a program that helps the poor, then I believe he cares about the poor. If he continues to come up with that crappy budget that he's got that cuts every program that helps the poor, then forget him. Totally forget him. And I think people don't listen to Paul Ryan because he has nothing to say. I think he's a total fraud, a total phony. He doesn't give a rat's ass about the poor.
Tough crowd.
My opinion. All right. So watch on Thursday. It's going to be the same old gas from Paul Ryan.
I will be watching. I'll report back to you immediately.
And we'll talk about it next Tuesday. Arthur Delaney here from Huffington Post with the news of the day from Huffington Post and HuffPost Hill. And you're more than welcome to join the conversation at any time. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Here we go, 10 minutes before the top of the hour on a Tuesday, July 22nd. In studio with us, the editor of HuffPost Hill for the Huffington Post, Arthur Delaney. Arthur, so President Obama yesterday having a an event, off-campus event for his My Brother's Keeper initiative that he started a few months ago, was ask a question about the political future of the District of Columbia, and said something I thought was pretty surprising.
He said, "I've been in favor of D.C. statehood all along."
Statehood, yeah.
And he said it like it was a no-brainer for him. Well, I don't think we knew that. President Obama, I don't think we knew that about you.
I mean, it's one thing to say we ought to have representation, a vote in Congress, right? But to go to actually 51st state is a big jump.
Yeah.
Because representation in Congress means, you take D.C.'s non-voting delegate, Eleanor Holmes Norton,
and give her a vote.
Yeah, give her a vote, the full power that everyone else's vote has, because she's not allowed to, cast any tiebreakers. And but statehood would mean that plus 2 senators. And the only reason this hasn't happened is because the city's all Democrats and Republicans don't want more Democrats. I mean, the only reason that nothing has happened. I think statehood is a lot to ask, but representation isn't. And the excuse is, well, the Constitution says you don't get that, even though the unenumerated things in the Constitution about like representative government would imply that D.C. residents should have that.
And the other thing the president did yesterday that you've reported on in the HuffPost Hill, signed an executive order, a pretty important executive order, affecting federal contractors yesterday.
Right, banning workplace discrimination on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation for federal contractors. Orientation and, sex and everything. That is, you already can't discriminate against that, but this is now expanding to gender identity, meaning transgender people, and to federal contractors. And this goes along with him, raising the minimum wage for federal contractors as part of his I Have a Pen initiative that he launched around the time of the State of the Union earlier this year.
I read yesterday that Congress has had this proposal, this legislation in front of it for 40 years and has failed to act.
They're just not doing anything. They just don't do stuff like that.
Right. So you can see why the president might feel, hey, it's time for an executive order to do this. You can't sit around and wait for Congress to do it.
I want to go. Speaking of Congress and the 51st state, there's a little more context to this Obama thing.
Quickly.
They're screwing with our pot law.
Oh,
recently decriminalized. They're always screwing with the gun laws, and those two screwings have been going on this summer. So that's important context for Obama's statement.
Here we are, a D.C. resident fighting back.
Don't screw with our pot law.
I love it. All right, yeah. We got a lot of good stuff. And the 4-day work week, remember, it started right here with Arthur Delaney. Thanks, Arthur. Good to see you, man.
Great
see you
to
next
be here.
Tuesday.
Yes.
All right.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them But, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, on this Tuesday, July 22nd, 1 hour down, 2 more great hours coming up, and David Martin from CBS News will be joining us with the latest from the Pentagon on the situation in eastern Ukraine and on the Medal of Honor ceremony yesterday in the East Room of the White House. Also, we'll be joined at the top of the next hour by Marina Koren from the National Journal to talk about whether Russia is ever going to force the East Ukraine separatists to do the right thing at that airplane crash site.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, it's Tuesday, July 22nd. Hello. Great to see you today, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on a Tuesday morning. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, on our studio on Capitol Hill, and reaching out to you on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. Free Speech TV everywhere in this country, and TawkrTV all around the globe, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. The two big stories of the day remain in the Ukraine. International inspectors have finally been allowed into the crash site of MH17, even though we've seen video that much of the evidence has been tampered with. Meanwhile, the bodies of those 298 victims, most of them, have finally left the area on board a train to central Ukraine, from where they will be flown to the Netherlands for identification and return to the families. And today, European ministers meet to consider their own tough sanctions against Russia. President Obama yesterday again pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin as the man chiefly responsible. In Gaza, the fighting continues. The death toll is now up to 583 Palestinians killed, including 120 children and many civilians. With Israel, 27 Israeli soldiers have now been killed. John Kerry, Secretary of State, is in Cairo trying to get parties together to agree to a ceasefire, perhaps an impossible and hopeless task. And meanwhile, back here in Washington, the Congress is very busy. I mean, they're very, very busy trying to decide how they are going to spend the next 2 weeks doing nothing before they take an August break to do absolutely nothing for an entire month. So whether they're here or there, they do nothing. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Join the program. Glad to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
International observers finally given access to the crash scene in eastern Ukraine. It only took them, 5 or 6 days. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Tuesday, July 22nd. So good to see you today. Thank you for being part of the program. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. With the news of the day here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, we'll bring it all to you. You tell us what it means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. As you listen to your local progressive talk radio station, have the phone handy. Dial that toll-free number again, 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Join the team here this morning with Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
Yo, yo, yo. How you doing?
You managed to stay awake, Peter, now? Are you...
I'm here. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Okay. Just want to be
he
sure.
He called me yawning in the first hour of the program.
Big yawn in the first hour of the program.
Now he has a cup of coffee in his hand.
Oh, good.
I'm fully jolted. Good. Ready to roll.
Alicia Cruz there on the phone. She cannot take a nap because, the phone calls keep barging in. And Cyprian Balding, he can't take a nap either because he has to keep the cameras going here on our video stream, booming out to you on Free Speech TV, coast to coast here in this country, and all around the globe on TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. The big story of the day is the Ukraine, what's happening at the crash site. What happened, where that missile was fired from that brought down the Malaysian Airlines flight last Thursday. Marina Koren has been reporting on that story for the National Journal, and she joins us in our studio this morning to talk about it. Hi, Marina. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
We've had brighter stories to write about, but this is a big one. So.
Right. This is the story, one of the many stories of this week.
Yeah. It was good to have you in studio. Thanks for coming in. Another thing that's not getting as much attention as it might otherwise get is the story of with the drought in California. Very, very serious. Every part of the state is suffering from the drought, some more than others. And now it's $500 if you're caught watering your lawn or wasting water, basically. $500 a day fine. Conan O'Brien last night pointed out that some people still, however, aren't taking this seriously enough, but that could change.
Drought. There's a problem. The drought, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're taking it seriously. Silence means you're not. Actually, officials are concerned that people in Los Angeles are too apathetic about the drought, that we're not doing anything about it. Yeah, of course, that'll change next week when they announce that the drought is killing all the marijuana crops. And then, man, you're going to see a lot of stoners hop to it for the first time.
Oh, no. Yeah.
You got to do something, man.
Yeah. The vineyards, doesn't matter, right? Yeah, it's all right. Napa Valley, we don't care, but not the pot crop up in Mendocino County, or Humboldt County. Yeah. So we've got Marina Koren here for the first half hour, and then David Stacey joins us from the Human Rights Campaign Fund. Talk about the big executive order President Obama signed yesterday. David Martin from CBS News, covers the Pentagon for CBS News, joins us in our next hour. And let's talk about the latest from the East Ukraine. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. We'll start there with marijuana because Colorado's been selling it recreationally for 7 months now. And one of the big criticisms before this went into place is that this is going to hurt alcohol sales, that people want to get messed up. They're going to go get pot instead of alcohol. Turns out that might not be the case. The Beer Institute took a look at alcohol sales for this year since they've been selling recreational pot, and they have seen an increase of 6.7% in alcohol sales. So it didn't go down, it went up significantly. 6.7%. It's not bad. They're saying that a lot of tourists come to town to go and buy the recreational pot, but while they're in town, they'll also buy a couple of drinks and things like that. So.
All in all, I'm telling you, legalization of pot has been a the gold mine for Colorado. It will be for Washington State. And I'm telling you, every other state ought to do it, man.
Yeah.
Go where the gold is.
Yeah. When you go to a baseball game,
yes.
Bill, do you normally get a hot dog?
Of course.
I always get a hot dog. It's like the one place that's okay to eat a hot dog.
The thing I miss most about Los Angeles are the Dodger dogs. I love Dodger dogs.
Well, yesterday, PETA put out a list of the most vegetarian-friendly Major League Baseball stadiums. So these people don't go to baseball games.
You're vegan. Stay away.
To get a hot dog.
Vegans shouldn't be allowed in
the number one most vegetarian-friendly Major League Baseball stadium is. You want to guess?
Don't tell me it's Washington D.C. or I'll throw up.
Washington D.C. is actually number 5 on the list.
Oh, what about San Francisco?
San Francisco is number 1. San Francisco
that makes sense.
AT&T Park is number 1. They have fake hot dogs, like the fake meat hot dogs. Portobello sandwiches, vegetable tacos, hummus, rice and bean and vegetable bowls, pineapple salsa, things like that. Number 2 on the list.
What's the point?
Philadelphia.
San Francisco also has garlic fries, which are
vegetarian. Vegetarian.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. That's also
it's not fake meat. My point.
On the list, Washington Nationals number 5. We have roasted cauliflower sandwiches, and we also have a vegan crab cake. Which no. Like I'm like whatever. You would eat a fake hot dog, whatever. But like a fake crab cake,
a tofu crab cake.
Are you a vegetarian, Marina? You look like you were excited about that.
I'm a vegetarian.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Did I offend you?
No, I get that a lot. But I mean, I will try the vegan crab cake.
Why is it? It's like every time someone says, "Yeah, I'm a vegetarian." Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yes.
Of the meat that you're not eating.
I mean, I'm sorry, a vegetarian crab cake. What they do is they take tofu and put some Old Bay on it.
Yeah, right.
Old Bay makes everything better.
Yeah, exactly.
It does that.
Exactly. Which state is best represented by reporters? Pew Research took a look at which states. So, in other words,
what do you mean? Like
you take a look at population.
Most positive stories about?
No. I guess what I'm trying to say. So, you take a look at the population and you figure out how many reporters are there
per person
per serve.
Oh, hands down, Washington D.C.
You would think, right? So, Pew Research.
We're not a state.
Yeah, that's right. Pew Research took a look at every 500,000 residents of a state. How many reporters are there to serve those 500,000 residents? Number 1 on the list. Vermont. Vermont is number 1. For every 500,000 residents, there are 10 full-time reporters covering that state house. It's all about the small populations, right?
Yeah,
Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota all come out near the top. The worst state?
California.
California is the worst state. Yeah. For every 500,000 people.
The biggest state.
That's right. That's right. For every 500,000 people, there is 0.6 of one reporter there to cover the goings-on of the state house issues. Florida is second worst with 0.9.
Which is why they get away with so much.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Thank you, Peter. 14 minutes after the hour. Now, to the extent that being a vegetarian, you can clearly see this issue. What is the role of Russia in the eastern Ukraine? I mean, they're clearly calling the shots, aren't they?
Right. So Russia has all the pull when it comes to these aptly named pro-Russian separatists that, many officials believe to have shot down the jetliner last week. So they're kind of basically, the rebels are in a way the puppets, and Moscow and Putin are just, steering them along.
And pulling, you're right. They're pulling the strings, right? I mean, so that if Putin wanted to just tell these guys, look, knock it off, right? It's over. We're not going to send you any more arms. We're not going to send you any more advisors. Knock it off. They wouldn't have any choice, would they?
Right. I mean, it would largely work. I'm sure there would be some dissenters, but if Moscow pulls, the ammunition, the money, everything back, they have nothing to work with there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So is there any doubt then that Russia supplied this SA-17 missile system to the separatists?
I think there's some doubt in that, the investigation is just getting started.
Yeah, I know, but let's be real.
But
is there any? You're a reporter. You've seen the videos. So have I. I mean, and
Right.
you know who the players are, right?
Right, there's a lot of evidence. The surface-to-air missile that blew the plane out of the sky, there's evidence that it's Russian-made. And then there's, the question of who else would have supplied this rocket.
Right, and
to
President
this
Obama
region.
made that point last week. I mean, there's nowhere else they could have gotten that missile, nor nowhere else could they have gotten the training to shoot that missile. Is it
Exactly.
possible that Russian advisors were actually on the scene when that missile was fired?
That's a possibility, and I think that's what U.S. intelligence officials are going to be looking at this week. They're trying to see if Russia in any way advised it, maybe, or, if they went so far as to pulling the trigger.
Yeah,
There's a spectrum
push the
here.
button or
and-
whatever. Yeah,
Right. I mean, there's only time will tell how involved Russia has been.
Vladimir Putin just again last night said the Ukrainian government shot down this plane. They have this missile system. They fired it. And they're the ones, and not for whatever reason, they shot down the plane. Does anybody believe that?
I don't think so.
Outside of Russia, I could.
Right. I really don't think so. I mean, the Ukrainian president has been saying that all of their military aircraft have been accounted for. And Putin he's been blaming the Ukrainians for this entire conflict, for letting it get this far, when he is backing the separatists who are letting it get too far. So this is just an information war that's being fought between Russia and Ukraine. And, Putin said in a video statement that, no one should use this crash as a political gain for political purposes. But that's exactly what he'll be doing from now on.
And what he has been doing.
Right, exactly.
Right. So, but internally in Russia, is it working? I mean, do the Russian people buy this propaganda?
Largely they do. Putin's popularity is the highest it's been in years because, the state-run media there, all the newspapers, TV, they do such a great job of, spreading this propaganda. So they do believe that Ukraine is responsible, that Kiev is responsible, that the West is the enemy. But they're not getting a lot of information, and they're definitely not getting the same story that we are and European nations are.
All right. So here you have, in the worst possible scenario, a case where a rogue nation, Russia, helping a group of terrorists, if you will. They give them this weapon, they shoot down a commercial airliner, and Putin's fingers are all over it. What can the rest of the world do?
That's a very good question. Yesterday the Ukrainian president
It's kind of frightening that there's not more the rest of the world can do,
Right.
or is willing to do.
And frightening that it's taken so long, like you said, 5 days just to get the bodies out of the crash site and to start recovery efforts and to get recovery workers there. So yesterday, the Ukrainian president called this crash an international crime. I'm not sure how applicable that is, but it is definitely going to be an international response. There are so many countries involved. The passengers and crew aboard the plane came from 11 different countries. The U.S. is sending resources to aid in the investigation. It's going to be a very interesting time to see, not only who's responsible and who's going to pay, but who's going to, just find out what happened and deal with the aftermath.
But even way back to when Putin seized Crimea, and by the way, got away with it,
Right.
We levied sanctions against Russia. The day before this crash, last Wednesday, or this murder, mass murder, President Obama put more sanctions on Russia. To this date, Germany, France, and England have done nothing about Russia because they depend on their oil and their gas. So when are they going to step up to the plate?
Right.
Or will they?
Well, this is definitely a turning point for Europe. This is the Obama administration saying, look, we have, the third, fourth round of sanctions. It's your turn now. Our sanctions are ineffectual without your support. And the White House is hoping that this awful tragedy is going to create a moral case for the Europeans. Sure, they have strong economic ties and energy ties to Russia, but, when you have 298 people dead, that's definitely time for some stronger reaction than we've seen. So, a few countries are already shifting. The Netherlands and Germany are saying that they're now giving Putin one last chance. But one last chance is Putin can do a lot with that one last chance.
Yeah, right. And I mean, what do you have to do, right? You have to ask yourself, what does Putin have to do to get Europe to act, to realize that this guy is evil as he is? I mean, what worse could he do than shooting down or putting in motion actions that led to the shooting down of a civilian aircraft with 298 innocent people killed, and then bungling up the not letting people come in to the crash site, not letting them recover the bodies, tampering with the evidence. It just goes on and on and on. Horrible situation. Marina Koren has been covering it for the National Journal, looking at all these questions and the investigation. Everybody's calling for an investigation, but who's in charge of that investigation, and will they really be able to get all the information that they need to come to those conclusions and to tell us what exactly happened? So many questions still remaining. We're talking about it here on the Tuesday show. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Marina, Koren here from National Journal. We're talking the situation, the latest, with flight MH17 and the crash site in eastern Ukraine. So, Marina, what happens now with the everybody's saying, well, we have to wait and get the facts. We have to wait and get the facts. I think we know what the facts are, but we have to have the official investigation. Can there be an official investigation when they've tampered with so much of the evidence and still are people still allowed to the crash site, and who's in charge?
Well, I think if there's going to be an investigation, it's going to be the first of its kind, and it's going to be one of the most fragmented. So many nations are involved. Netherlands is leading the charge, but there's going to be just a lot of chaos, I think. And the pro-Russian separatists just handed over the black boxes to recovery workers, and that's going to be the key to figuring out what happened, because you'll be able to hear the pilots.
They handed those boxes over after they doctored them up a little bit, I'll bet. I don't know whether they can, but if they can, they did.
Right. I mean, I don't know too much about the technology of black boxes themselves, but I mean, I imagine they can be tampered with. And if they had them for 5 days...
Yeah. Right.
I mean, yeah, things could have happened.
I mean, I saw in the news last night video of there's a big tent where belongings of the the victims, right, had been placed. And there were people inside there just going through their suitcases and going through their stuff and, removing, I guess, anything or any notes or anything that might have indicated whatever. I mean, It's just outrageous the cavalier treatment with which the separatists have approached this whole thing.
Right, and I feel like that's a first. I mean, there were reports of some of the victims' credit cards being used. And that suggests that there was looting at the site. And I feel like this is, I've not heard of that before ever at a crash site like this.
Yeah, and the treatment, disrespect for the bodies and everything is just going on and on. Well, this is hardly the end of this story. We're just getting into this story. It's going to go on and on, which will keep you busy. But we appreciate you coming in this morning to talk about it. Thanks, Marina.
Thanks for having me.
NationalJournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now, it is the Bill Press Show. Indeed, we're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers. The good men and women, teachers of America, members of the AFT under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference every day, you bet. And you can find about more about their good work at their website, aft.org. President Obama, historic moment at the White House yesterday where he signed an executive order ending discrimination, banning discrimination against employees of federal contractors on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. David Stacey is the Government Affairs Director for the Human Rights Campaign, a great organization around a long time, one of the leading organizations on LGBT rights. David, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Bill. Welcome.
Why was this important yesterday? Why did the president do it and not get Congress to pass a bill?
Well, I think he wants Congress to pass a bill, but the president did it because Congress wasn't passing a bill. We have the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which would prohibit employment discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity with private employers. The Senate did pass the bill with 64 votes. We picked up 10 Republicans, so it was a great bipartisan vote, probably the biggest bipartisan vote in this entire Congress.
Was it 10 Republicans?
10 Republicans, yep, including people like Jeff Flake and John McCain and Kelly Ayotte and Dean Heller.
Rob Portman,
absolutely. So we had, and Susan Collins was and Mark Kirk were tremendous lead sponsors of that bill. So that was really a great accomplishment. The House, not so good, not taking the bill up. So, the president has been urging the House to consider that bill. And since they haven't, the president moved forward with this executive order, which is incredibly consequential.
Now, so exactly, it applies both to federal agencies and to federal contractors, correct?
That's right. So President Clinton protected on the basis of sexual orientation for federal employees. President Obama, in his order yesterday, added gender identity to that. It's actually to a Nixon order, so he amended a Nixon executive order. And then also the biggest piece of it is this federal contractor piece. So they added sexual orientation and gender identity to a President Johnson order. So federal contractors now will have to apply the same standard as federal employees have and the same protection that federal employees have. So that affects an additional 14 million workers who don't have any protections right now under either state law or any other protections.
Wow. It's sort of kind of follows President Obama's executive order earlier in the year on the minimum wage, saying that federal contractors have to apply the minimum wage.
Right.
Elise, I was just looking. We have President Obama yesterday with his take about why this was an important step to take.
We've got an obligation to make sure that the country we love remains a place where no matter who you are or what you look like or where you come from or how you started out or what your last name is or who you love, no matter what, you can make it in this country.
It's as simple as that, right?
It really is. This isn't asking these companies to do a lot. It's just saying don't discriminate and make sure you're hiring the best and brightest employees to work on behalf of the federal government.
Is it a serious problem? I mean, have we seen still today in 2014 examples of discrimination against employees based on gender identity or still today on sexual orientation?
Absolutely, especially gender identity. Transgender Americans face, incredible discrimination. Some of it is overt and some of it is more subtle, but this is a really important protection. And we've seen Fortune 500 companies, over 90% of them now have non-discrimination policies in their own policies, and more than almost 60% have gender identity protections. And so corporate America has really looked at this and said, we don't want to discriminate because we want to have the best and brightest employees, and that's good for business. And that's what the federal government is doing too. That what's good for the federal government is to bring in the best people. And
what's happening at the state? If Congress is not acting, it's sort of like the minimum wage. Several states have just gone ahead anyway. California just recently did. Washington State has. Are states acting independently in the same direction without waiting for Congress to act?
Some states are, some states aren't. That's why we need a federal law. But certainly right now we have 21 states that have non-discrimination laws based on sexual orientation and 18 based on gender identity. Maryland just went forward and added gender identity to their law. And so, we're looking for states like New York to maybe follow suit soon.
New York is not on board yet.
New York has sexual orientation but not gender identity.
Right. There was talk at one time ago. David Stacey is with us from the Human Rights Campaign. It's hrc.org. There was talk that the president might put a rider in here to allow religious organizations, to allow an exception for religious organizations. Did he?
He didn't do anything new. President Bush, George W. Bush, in 2002, as part of his faith-based initiative, for the first time allowed federal contractors to discriminate in hiring on the basis of religion. So, for example, there are a few federal contractors that provide chaplain services for prisons, and they would be allowed to discriminate on their employees on the basis of religion. So it's a narrow exemption, and President Obama did not change that. But he did not add any new exemption, and there were certainly voices urging a much broder exemption.
Right. There were people urging a Hobby Lobby exemption, basically.
Both Hobby Lobby for any employer and some wanted broader.
Mm-hmm. He did not do that, which
he did not.
Which I was glad to see
Absolutely.
that he did
So
not
were
do,
we.
because it seemed to me that this idea of using religion as an excuse for discriminating against anybody for any reason whatsoever is just outrageous and unacceptable. And I was afraid that there might be enough pressure on the White House to do something along those lines. So it's important. I think it was very important that he signed a clean.
That's right. And the principle you laid out is really important, that nobody should be hiding behind religion to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. We're not talking about hiring clergy. We're not saying the Catholic Church has to hire gay priests or women priests. That's protected by the First Amendment. But when you're talking about a janitor at a Catholic hospital or someone else working in a religious university, if they're not teaching religion, they really don't need to be discriminated against. We can have an open process there.
Right. So when you look at Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it's gone under President Obama. When you look at marriage equality, the Supreme Court has helped President Obama, the first president to publicly support it. And what are we up to? 18 states now, or 19, or every day almost.
I think it's 19. It depends on how you count, because some are not happening at the moment, although they've had good decisions.
You look at Utah and you look at Oklahoma. I mean, almost every day. And now you look at this employment ban on discrimination among federal contractors. How does President Obama stack in terms of presidents on LGBT issues?
I think he's undoubtedly the most pro-LGBT president we've seen. He's taken all of those steps, including things. We had the Supreme Court decide that the Defense of Marriage Act was unconstitutional, that the federal government should provide those benefits.
And before that, right, the Obama administration refused to
defend that law.
Yeah,
while Congress did.
Right.
But the other piece of it, though, is when they implemented that decision, they didn't just say we're going to implement that decision in states like California and New York that have marriage equality. They were going to treat all of marriages, no matter where you live. So if you live in my state of Wisconsin, or you live in Michigan, or you live in Alabama, and you get married in one of those states that allows same-sex marriage, your marriage is recognized by the federal government. And that was a really, courageous step by the president, and not something he needed to do. It was certainly the right thing to do, and he did it.
With the Human Rights Campaign, so we have President Obama, let's say, I think clearly, by far, the most LGBT-friendly, if you will, president that we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And the Democratic Party used to be, even for Democrats, marriage equality was always an issue. A lot of them would, even Hillary Clinton, I don't know what to do about it. But, more and more of them are coming aboard. Any movement in the Republican Party?
We're definitely seeing movement. The tone has completely changed. And I think there's a recognition by a lot of the leadership of the party that they need to move in a different direction. And we have a few Republicans that have really stepped out. Susan Collins from Maine just came out for marriage equality recently. Rob Portman from Ohio is out for marriage equality. So we have, a handful of Republicans in Congress. But, Congress is always a lagging indicator, and Republicans in Congress are a lagging indicator on this. We've seen, more support among rank-and-file Republicans. And I think the way you see that is it's not a talking point for national Republicans by and large. You certainly have the Louis Gohmerts and the Steve Kings in Congress and Michelle Bachmans that keep doing that. But you don't see John Boehner talking about this issue at all.
We're always surprised that Michelle Bachmann's husband doesn't help her understand the issue a little better. But I don't know. But the times are changing.
They absolutely are.
I think maybe not fast enough among the Republican Party. But the big step by the president yesterday, and we're saluting that this morning and understanding more about it with David Stacey from the Human Rights Campaign. Your questions, your comments, you saw what the president did. Join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. There was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. In the next hour, David Martin from CBS News, covers the Pentagon for CBS News, will be here with us. He had a tremendous interview with the Medal of Honor winner yesterday, Staff Sergeant Ryan Pitts. He'll tell us about that and also tell us the latest, the Pentagon thinking on who fired the missile that brought down that plane and how they got that equipment. Right now we're talking about historic action taken by President Obama yesterday, signing the executive order to end discrimination in employment based on sexual orientation or gender identity for federal contractors. David Stacey is with us. He's the Government Affairs Director for the Human Rights Campaign, HRC.org. You know, big picture, David, and you alluded to this just before the break, that among the hot button issues, right, for particularly Republicans influenced by the religious right, I mean, homosexuality was always right up there with guns.
That's right.
Right, guns and gays and...
God, guns, and gays.
God, that's it, God, guns, and gays, right. It's not so much anymore. Correct? That's my impression.
That's right.
They kind
that's
of
right.
backed away a little bit.
I
Not
think
from guns, but from gays.
Not from guns at all. Yeah, there's really been a sort of a sea change, I think, by and large, among Republicans. The number of members in Congress talking about LGBT issues in a negative way is really a lot different than when I started on the Hill in 1999. And certainly even in the last 2 or 3 years. You know, you still have the Michelle Bachmans and the Steve Kings and folks like that who are terrible, but you also see people like Susan Collins or Ileana Ros-Lehtinen in the House who have really leaned into support for LGBT equality and not only vote for it, but have taken leadership roles in trying to change the minds of their colleagues. And you also see folks like John Boehner and Eric Cantor and others in the House who are not, regularly using this as talking points, are not bringing bills to the floor in, a terrible negative way like they used to. I mean, in the mid 90s, they were trying to ban adoption from gay couples in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, right. Now, is the next step then would be openly gay Republicans running for office. Happening yet?
There are actually several this cycle that are running. We've also had two openly gay Republican congressmen, both Steve Gunderson and Jim Colby. So they're
Republicans.
Republicans, and it's happening. We actually have 7 openly LGBT members in the House right now, and then Tammy Baldwin is our first openly gay senator. No Republicans in that batch, but we've had them in the past, and I think we'll have them again soon.
7 in the House right now?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And
they're from all over the country, from Arizona to Wisconsin to California and everywhere in between.
And Maine. Right.
Yes, Mike Mishu, who's running for governor up there, is just came out in this Congress.
And do you find that support national, basically that somebody would be? The ultimate goal, right, is that somebody's running for office. You either vote for him or her because you agree with their policies, nothing to do with their sexual orientation. I guess
right.
we're getting there. right?
Well, I used to work for Tammy Baldwin, and so she won a state like Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's actually she is the was the second openly gay congressperson in Wisconsin, because Steve Gunderson was the first from Wisconsin. But now Mark Pocan succeeded Tammy Baldwin in her House seat.
Mark Pocan's a good friend of the program. He's been in many times, married.
Yep, married. Yeah. And so, Wisconsin has had 3, gay congresspeople in the last decade. And it's a moderate state. It's not a state that, it's a hard purple state. It consistently is competitive since the '84 election. And, but they elected Tammy Baldwin over Tommy Thompson, a legend in Wisconsin. And it wasn't because she's a lesbian. It was because she was addressing the concerns that voters in Wisconsin had. And they made a choice. Do I want Tommy Thompson's policies or Tammy Baldwin's policies? And who do I want to represent me? And I don't think her sexual orientation was a barrier. There's probably voters who didn't like that. I think there were voters who thought that was a positive, that if she could be honest about that, she was going to be honest about everything.
It's not why she won, for sure.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not why Tommy Thompson lost. But we have a great affinity with Wisconsin because we're on 92.1, the mic out in Madison, proud of it, and happy to be, for a long time, part of their morning lineup. But Wisconsin, as you point out, is not all liberal state that some people think it is. We think of Madison. That's not all of Wisconsin. Look at Scott Walker. The fact that Scott Walker got elected in Wisconsin indicates it's a moderate state.
That's right. That's right. And you have Ron Johnson. So you have probably 2 more diametrically opposed senators ideologically between Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson.
We're talking now. We have our first African-American president. We're talking about next up is our first female president. Do you think there'll ever be a gay president or LGBT president of the United States?
I'm sure there will be. I can't tell you when. I don't think there's anybody poised to run this cycle, but I think we absolutely will see that.
Well, I'll bet you it won't be long before there'll be an openly gay person on the national ticket.
Yeah, and Mike Michaud in Maine may be the first openly gay governor that's elected. We've had Jim McGreevey who came out while he was governor, but I think we'll see Michaud has a very good chance to win.
Yeah, Mike Michaud, another good friend of the program, a neighbor of ours on Capitol Hill, has been in studio here with us. We've got to get him back again, help him get elected governor of Maine. Well, congratulations again on the big step yesterday. Congratulations to you and to President Obama.
And to everybody in the country, because we're going to be a more equal place now.
Absolutely. And thank you for all the great work of HRC, and we'll see you again. Thanks, David, for coming in. I'll be back and tell you what President Obama's up to today, off to the West Coast.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, how do you like these first 2 hours? Well, guess what? We got a third hour coming up here. You're not going to want to miss. David Martin, I think one of the best reporters in the business today, covers the Pentagon for CBS News. He will join us on our news line in the next hour, and Molly O'Toole from Defense One will be along as well. From both of them, we'll get the latest on efforts to get to the bottom of what happened with the shooting down of the plane in eastern Ukraine, and the latest on the death toll and the possibilities of a ceasefire in Gaza, both coming up in hour number 3 on TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Join us there.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If If I could live an extra 5 years...
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama all over the place today. First of all, at the White House this morning, after he gets a daily briefing, he will be meeting with the Apollo 11 team. Talk about the importance of the space race and going to Mars next. And then he will sign an important piece of legislation, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. 1 o'clock, he leaves the White House for a flight to Seattle, a big fundraiser in Seattle. Then he hops back on Air Force One and heads down the West Coast to San Francisco. Arriving in San Francisco tonight about 9 o'clock, spends the night in San Francisco, and he'll have a fundraiser in San Francisco tomorrow. The president on the road. We have because the president's leaving pretty early, we have a briefing early with Josh Earnest today at 11 o'clock. I'll be there and tell you all about it tomorrow when we come back. Molly O'Toole from Defense One.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Investigators finally allowed to the crash site in eastern Ukraine. It only took them 5 days. They'll allow them in. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Good to see you today. It is Tuesday, July 22nd. Welcome to the Bill Press Show this Tuesday morning, coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station and worldwide. We're looking at you on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us as we hop around the world to let you know what's going on here in our nation's capital, here in this country, coast to coast, and around the globe as well. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. You can join the conversation anytime or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. The gang's all here this morning. Peter Unkburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey. Hey, good morning.
With Alicia Cruz there. She's standing by to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And keeping us looking good on the video cam, Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, to talk about the two biggest stories of the day, the war in Gaza and the attempt to get some answers in eastern Ukraine. Molly O'Toole covers all these issues for Defense One, part of the Atlantic Media Group, and she's in studio with us this morning. Hi, Molly. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good
welcome.
to see you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We know we've been following Elizabeth Warren, who was out at Netroots last week. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is on the road, ostensibly selling books. We think she's selling maybe a candidacy for 2016. Is she going to run or not? Well, who do you ask? You would think you would ask her husband, right, Bill Clinton, and he would know. He says he doesn't have a clue. Conan O'Brien last night, I said, well, that works both ways.
In a new interview, Bill Clinton said he doesn't know if his wife's going to run for president. Doesn't know. Yeah. Clinton said, I don't know what she's up to. And thank God she doesn't know what I'm up to.
Poor Bill Clinton. He still has that reputation.
I think he's always going to have that reputation.
Probably well-deserved.
Yeah.
Right?
He'll be around for a while.
All right. So Molly O'Toole here with us for the first half hour, and then David Martin from CBS News at the Pentagon joins us at the half hour. We'll get right to the news of the day. But first, these are the big headlines.
Full court press.
Just a couple of
What's
other
up?
stories making news. You know Five Guys, Bill, the hamburger restaurant.
My favorite.
All right, good. Well, all right. So they have a fairly limited menu, right? You can just get burgers or a hot dog or fries, and that's basically it. Not true for a couple of Manhattan locations which have begun testing milkshakes. Five Guys could be serving milkshakes nationwide. They're testing it out in 2 locations in Manhattan, 1 location in New Jersey, and another one in Virginia. And what they're doing is you get a base vanilla milkshake, and then you can add stuff to it. So you could add chocolate syrup to make it a chocolate milkshake. Mm-hmm. You could also add sour cherries, malted milk, coffee, or bacon to your milkshake.
No.
The Five Guys, yeah. I think I'm with you.
No.
I think I'm with you. I don't think I want a bacon.
But one of the, first of all, I get the same thing all the time. The little bacon cheeseburger.
Sure.
It makes me feel like I'm
it's diet food because you're getting a little.
Because a little one.
Yeah.
A bacon milkshake might go well with that.
No.
Bacon milkshake goes well with
the
nothing.
bacon on the burger, not in the milkshake.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing I like about Five Guys is the simplicity of it.
Right.
You got the burger, you got the fries, you got the Coke.
Yeah.
So, but you add the milkshake.
But their whole thing,
I'm not
right,
against it. I'm just
7 minutes
a little nervous about it.
from order to your food, right? So as long as that doesn't mess with that, I think everybody.
I'm okay with this. Okay.
All right. Okay. What is driving traffic on the internet? Apparently, Facebook is driving more traffic than any other social media site. In fact, according to a new report by the Shareaholic Social Media Traffic Report, Facebook drives 23% of all overall visits to websites.
Wow.
Which is stunning, really. I mean, it's a quarter of all web traffic comes from Facebook.
Because there are so many. websites today
Right,
and some
yeah.
of the social media.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second, and I didn't see this, Pinterest. Pinterest is number 2.
Pinterest is huge.
Right, but I didn't think it was driving that much traffic. And then Twitter is behind them in third. So
I would think Twitter would be higher.
I
That's
would have thought so
interesting.
too. I would have thought so, but no, it's Facebook rules followed by Pinterest.
I have no idea what Pinterest is.
You'd love it.
I'm
you can design your
trying
whole
so
house.
hard
I've heard of
to
Pinterest.
get in on the whole Pinterest thing. I just can't.
It's kind of a girl
understand
thing.
it.
It's kind of a girl thing. It is.
I'm not the best resource for this because I don't use it either.
Oh.
Like, I have a Pinterest account. I do all the cooking in my house, so I know it's good for recipes. I shop a lot. I shop too much. I'm all... Let's just air this
Your
out. Let's just
Pinterest
air it out right now.
material.
Let's just air it out right now. But I don't understand how to use it. I just don't.
What is it all about?
Okay, all right. So my understanding is it's basically if you find like a recipe that you like, you pin it on your Pinterest page and it shares with other people.
It all comes from the idea when you were a girl, you used to like to make collages
Yo,
of
I
all
like
the
to make
stuff you
collages.
love.
I'm not putting a gender.
So now you
role
can.
on this.
Well, it is. I mean, there are a lot of like
gonna be the
articles when it
feminist
first
here.
came out about that.
What's the word? How do you spell it?
It's like Pinterest with a P, right?
It's interest with a P.
Oh,
What did I say?
Pinterest.
Pinterest.
Sorry,
Which is
Pinterest
also
with a P.
true.
Also
All right.
very
Also
true.
true.
All right. All right.
This segment has been brought to you by
Move on.
Pinterest.
Okay, all right. Quick story. So in L.A., there's a pine tree that was planted in honor of George Harrison, the Beatle. It's become sort of a little shrine. It's near the Griffith Observatory. It's sort of like the shrine for George Harrison. Bad news, though. The tree is dead because of an invasive species of beetles.
Oh, no. Oh.
Beetles.
I got it. Yes.
The tree's dead. They're going to rip it down because these invasive beetles have taken over the tree, the George Harrison tree. They're going to plant a new one, and they're going to protect against those beetles. But, I mean, I can't figure out if that's poetic or ironic. Poor George Harrison.
That's right. If the Beatles didn't get it, the drought would.
Yeah, exactly. There
So,
you go.
California. Thank you, Peter. Pinterest. I'm going to check that out. Yes. Moving on. Molly, where do we start? We've talked so much about Ukraine this morning. Let's start with Gaza. The latest numbers I saw this morning, 565 Palestinians dead, including 120-some children. On the Israeli side, 27 soldiers dead. John Kerry arriving in Cairo this morning. It's not going to be easy to get both sides to just cease fire.
No. I mean, it never has been. This is one of the most intractable conflicts the world faces. There's a lot of international pressure right now to at least return to the ceasefire of 2012, and that's what he's tasked with. But I think, like we said, don't envy him the task.
What is the fundamental? What are they fundamentally fighting about? I mean, we know Hamas has not recognized Israel, right? But I mean, is there any? What triggered this particular invasion?
Well, that question fundamentally is huge. It goes back for such a long time. But in terms of what triggered this particular invasion, there was the kidnapping and the murder of, I believe it was 3 Israelis. And
teens, right.
Right. And then in retaliation, also a Palestinian teenager was kidnapped and murdered. And there was a lot of effort at the beginning to kind of tamper down tensions. But, rocket fire is a pretty constant presence in people's lives in Israel.
And then Hamas just started firing off the rockets and Israel responded?
I mean, my understanding is that rocket fire is a pretty, even with the ceasefire, that rocket fire is kind of just a daily thing that Israelis have to grapple with in their lives. I mean, if you can imagine that in the United States, if a warning goes off and you have to be somewhere in 60 seconds. But, and then, what Israel has said is that this specific mission is to target, or this specific operation, is to target tunnel systems through which terrorists can operate. And that's the way that, but it's also some of these tunnel systems are a lifeline for Palestinians who've been kind of blocked off from the world. But that's specifically what Israel says this mission is for. But, you see the high numbers of casualties and, critics have suggested that it's maybe not the precise operation that they claim it to be.
President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama, and I think most world leaders, agree that the ultimate solution here is a two-state solution with the Palestinian Authority and Israel side by side, each recognizing the other's existence and need for security. It just begs the question, I guess, why can't they both, if that's the answer, why can't they both sit down at the table and hammer this out?
I mean, I'm not sure how you can possibly, I don't mean to be so cynical about it, but I don't understand how you could possibly resolve a conflict when, particularly this one specifically with Hamas and with Israel, when Hamas doesn't acknowledge Israel's right to exist and Israel wants to destroy Hamas. I mean, their goal is not a resolution. Their goal is to destroy each other and to have, the last rocket. And if that's the stated goal, then I'm not sure how you could have a resolution. That's a side. That's a different groups that you're dealing with.
Well, that I think that's true, and that's why so many people have just walked away from this and thrown up their hands and said, "Forget it." There's no resolution. There's no way to bring them together, and it certainly looks that way today because a lot of people have broken their pick trying to do so.
How long has this been an issue? It's been
since 1948.
It's been going on since then, and
before then, yeah. But
I mean, we're certainly not any closer to a resolution. We're as far away from a resolution as we could possibly be right now.
All right, let's talk about something we can resolve then. Okay. We can find out who fired that missile in eastern Ukraine, and as President Obama said yesterday, bring them to justice. But we know who fired that missile, don't we?
I mean, the evidence is pretty damning, at least the evidence that's emerged so far. I mean, almost as soon as the plane was brought down last week, suspicions were already emerging, and a pretty solid consensus that it was at least about even what kind of technology could bring an airplane down, and they thought it was a Buk or an SA-11 fired from territory that was held by the separatists. So the evidence that emerged almost right away was pretty damning, and that case has only been solidified since then.
Yeah, we've seen evidence of when that piece of equipment, that technology became available to the separatists like a week or so ago, that they were trained on how to use it. CBS News, we'll talk to David Martin about that a little bit later. They fired the tracer. The U.S. government did, right? Fired the missile and trace it all the way back to eastern Ukraine territory controlled by the separatists. And then we saw video of them moving this machine minus one missile back to Russia.
And beyond that, certain
what
things.
What more do you need?
Certain things haven't been verified, but there was also they caught messaging going on between rebels and was translated, at least according to the Ukrainian government, that said, we've shot down a plane. I mean, there's a lot out there that points a pretty strong finger.
Plus the fact that before this they had shot down a dozen or so planes and bragged about it.
Several other planes, yeah.
Right. So where does this lead? I mean, is there any? They're going to be brought to the Hague on war crimes, or what? So everybody's shocked about this, but it seems also that the world is powerless to do anything about it.
I mean, unfortunately, I think you're right. I mean, that's where it gets murkier. It's almost the evidence is almost the clearest thing about this. But for the Obama yesterday had some pretty strong words directed at Putin, and that he needs to take a certain amount of responsibility and initiative in pressuring the separatists to come to the table. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot that they can do. I mean, Russia is arming the separatists. There's been evidence of that, and we, the U.S., are providing, the Ukrainian government with non-lethal military aid. Things like bed mats. I mean, if that's kind of the disproportionate power situation, and beyond that, I mean, there can be stronger sanctions. But even our European partners, I don't believe, are willing to go any further.
We'll find out today if they are or not. They talk, but they haven't been able to get over the fact that they get so much oil and gas from Russia. They're afraid to slap any sanctions on because Putin could turn off the spigot. The one person who could stop this in a second. The one person who has any authority and any power and any influence in there is Vladimir Putin, right?
Right. I mean, they have the heaviest hand in this.
And that's why President
conflict.
Obama, I mean, again, yesterday and last Friday in the briefing room when he met with us at the White House, he kept saying, Putin's the one, Putin's the one. Putin could do this. Putin could tell the separatists, all right, knock it off. Putin could tell the separatists, let the inspectors in, let them come in and recover the bodies. You know, it's all he's pointing at Putin.
Well,
he's the most powerful person in that part of the world.
In this fight, I think that's true. But to play devil's advocate a little bit, I mean, there are people who are suggesting that this incident is evidence that perhaps the separatists have gotten out of control, and that Putin no longer has, kind of an iron grip on them. And they did negotiate. We have reports late last night or early this morning, rather, that some of the separatist groups did negotiate with the Malaysian government, with the Dutch government, to hand over flight recorders, to hand over the bodies, in which case, that's as close as they've come to functioning as an entity thus far. But.
Yeah, they handed over the flight recorders.
Right.
After they tampered them. Yeah, I don't trust them at all. Molly O'Toole is with us from Defense One. Defense1.com is the website, talking about Gaza and Ukraine. Your questions, comments, welcome at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Did you commit to change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after that, we'll talk to David Martin in the next half hour from CBS News covering the Pentagon. Speaking of defense issues, Defense One, part of the Atlantic Media Group. And Molly O'Toole is a political reporter for Defense One here in studio with us this morning. You know, Molly, the question that we kicked around at the briefing yesterday with Josh Earnest was, President Obama talked about finding the people responsible for this and making sure they're brought to justice. Samantha Power, our ambassador to the United Nations, said that we will stop at nothing to get the people responsible for this. What does that mean? What can we do? Let's say we find out the guy that pushed the button as a separatist.
Right. I'm not sure how they could proceed. I mean, there are ways in which we can try and target Russia for arming the separatists, but this is a non-state actor. It's very gray. So kind of traditional, whatever methods there might be, don't really apply so clearly here. I mean, even yesterday, the UN Security Council. I mean, all they could do was kind of come to an official resolution, a formal resolution that the international investigation must happen and that evidence must not be tampered with. And that's as close as, our international body that a lot of people recognize as dealing with international crises. That's as close as they can get.
Molly O'Toole, thanks for coming in today. Great to see you.
Press Show.
Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I see dot, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Tuesday, July 22nd. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women, many different federal agencies from the AFGE under President J. David Cox, proud to work for America every day, and you can find out more about their good work at their website, afge.org. Well, it's hard keeping up with what's going on in the Ukraine, the eastern Ukraine, and the shooting down of this Malaysian air flight, but I have been kept up to date by watching CBS News every night, and the team of Scott Pelley and David Martin, no better source of information. David Martin, national security correspondent for CBS News at the Pentagon, joining us on our news line this morning. Hi, David. Good to have you with us.
Good morning.
I want to ask you first, if I may. I saw your interview last night with Ryan Pitts, the Medal of Honor winner. You have had the honor of interviewing several of these Medal of Honor winners. And I want to play for you and as a reminder and for all of our audience, first of all, President Obama describing a little bit about the heroism that Ryan Pitts showed on that fateful day. Here's the president yesterday.
As the insurgents moved in, Ryan picked up a grenade, pulled the pin, and held that live grenade for a moment, then another, and then another, finally hurling it so they couldn't throw it back. And he did that again, and he did it again. Unable to stand, Ryan pulled himself up on his knees and manned a machine gun.
An incredible story, David.
It is, but all of those Medal of Honor stories are incredible, but they all come down with the soldier or the Marine telling you the same thing, which is that they were just doing their job and fighting to protect their buddies. In Ryan Pitts' case, he was one of the only ones to survive.
I saw that you mentioned, you were talking to him yesterday, that suddenly things in that attack got eerily quiet, right?
Yeah, he was up there firing away. He was using both a machine gun and a grenade launcher, and the enemy was so close that he had to aim the grenade launcher straight up in the air so that the grenade would have time to arm before it landed on the enemy. And then he suddenly realized he was the only one shooting.
Yeah.
and everyone else there at the observation post was either dead or they had been shot and were making their way back to an aid station further down toward the main camp.
Just incredible story. The heroism there he showed, and the humility he showed in talking to you. Basically, that I was just everybody there showed a lot of valor. As he pointed out.
I think most of us just tend to view these medals of honor as just these glorious moments of battle, but what they really are is the worst day that guy ever had, because he lost his buddies, and he held the hand of one of his buddies as he was dying, and then of course he got shot up, and he still has the effects of those injuries. But in Ryan's case, he has really moved on with his life. He's since graduated from college. He's married, got a 2-month-old child, and is working for Oracle.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful story, and a great interview last night too. Thank you for that. And let me ask you, now that we've seen 4 or 5 days and the evidence has been mounting, we're pretty sure now, aren't we, where that missile came from, who fired it, and who's responsible?
Well, the U.S. is certainly pretty sure. It has what it feels is a very powerful circumstantial case that the missiles came into the country, into eastern Ukraine from Russia, in a large convoy a weekend before this past one. And then on Monday, there were intercepted communications by the separatists talking about the fact that they had these new missile systems, which we call SA-11s. And on Monday, they, for the first time, shot down a plane that was at an altitude of greater than 20,000 feet. And then on Wednesday, they shot down a Ukrainian fighter jet. So they all of a sudden were demonstrating this ability to shoot down aircraft, which they had not had before. And then, of course, on Thursday, you get the airliner going down, and U.S. Satellites recorded the flash of a missile taking off at the same time the airliner went down, and they were able to track, for at least part of its flight, the missile as it moved up toward the aircraft. And then the next day, there was this social media posting of an SA-11 minus one of its missiles being trucked back out of eastern Ukraine into Russia. So to the U.S., that's a pretty convincing circumstantial case. The Russians, of course, are arguing otherwise, and they're claiming that the Ukrainian military could have shot this plane down. The U.S. says that it can account for all of the Ukrainian SA-11s at the time of the shootdown, both those that were in the possession of the Ukrainian military and a few that had been captured by the rebels during their takeover of eastern Ukraine.
And there's no way that the separatists could have operated this sophisticated piece of machinery without Russian assistance. Would you agree?
Well, that's the belief, and certainly without Russian training. I mean, you have to learn how to use these systems. It's not exactly a point and shoot weapon. So they either went back and received enough training so that they could operate it on their own, or there were Russian advisors or technicians at the site when the missile was launched. And there's just no evidence one way or the other that there were Russians actually at the site, although that is certainly one of the theories that they're pursuing and trying to unravel this.
So what is the next step? Is it possible to have an independent and authentic investigation of what happened, given the fact that there was so much time before investigators were even allowed in and so much evidence has been tampered with?
Well, there's sort of two strands. One is the investigation surrounding the missile, the sequence of events we've just talked about. And there, the administration is at least talking about possibly releasing the intelligence case, complete with whatever photos they have. And then the other half is, of course, what happened to the airplane up at 33,000 feet, and that's the part of the investigation that's been compromised. But they have the black boxes now. I don't think the black boxes are going to tell you that it was hit by a missile. I think all the black boxes can tell you is that it was operating all systems normal, and suddenly there was a catastrophic incident. But then you have, we've seen these photos that have been posted on Twitter and elsewhere of pieces of the wreckage that appear to have pitting as if they had been peppered by shrapnel. So I think if you had enough of that evidence, you could still come up with a pretty convincing case. If you want the smoking gun, I mean, what you have to do is be able to find a piece of shrapnel, a part of the missile warhead.
Oh yeah, right.
And then forensically match it to a particular SA-7 launcher, SA-11 launcher, just like you do with a bullet fired from a rifle. But now that launcher appears to be back in Russia, I think that's a pretty long shot.
I guess the final question, David, is, and it's so good of you to join us this morning again. Thank you. Is the president was talking about finding out who's responsible, bringing them to justice. Samantha Power, our ambassador to the United Nations, says we will stop at nothing at finding out these people and bringing them to justice. If we find out that it was really the separatists who fired this missile, what can we do about it?
Well, I think what you're really talking about is the sanctions. If you can determine one that it was beyond any doubt that it was the separatists, and two that the separatists did this because the Russians had made it possible for them to do it, and you can make that case in a overwhelming fashion, it just puts more pressure on the European countries, which until now have basically sided with their economic interests and not enacted really tough sanctions against Russia. And I think you could up the pain to Putin. And the end here is not necessarily to put somebody in the slammer. The end is to get Russia to cease and desist in its support for the separatist rebels.
Right, to call off the games and say, okay, this game is over, right? And no more machinery, no more arms, and no more help from us.
But the deniable way that this whole proxy war is being prosecuted, that too seems like a long shot.
Right. I think we've blown their cover on that one. David Martin at the Pentagon. Thanks so much, David, for your good work and especially for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
David Martin, nobody better, at the Pentagon for CBS News. Of course, just CBSNews.com and just watch them every night, like I do.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dog, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 12 minutes before the top of the hour, winding up a Tuesday show, Tuesday, July 22nd, here on The Bill Press Show. And on the home front, it is still the only thing really happening, although the story is nothing's happening, is the immigration issue. The only thing happening yesterday, Rick Perry, trying desperately to get any national media that he can, has decided his ticket to the White House is going to be to jump into the immigration wars. And so yesterday he made the big announcement. He is sending the Texas National Guard to the border.
Today, I am using my executive authority as governor of Texas and activating the National Guard.
Which is kind of funny because I thought people who used an executive order were sued by John Boehner. I mean, Rick Perry better be careful here. Next thing could happen would be a lawsuit. And Perry says, here's why I'm sending them there.
The National Guard's troops that I am deploying will support the state-led border surge by acting as a force multiplier on the ground and providing additional air assets beyond their current efforts.
Which is so stupid on his part for a couple of reasons. First of all, the logic, right? The logic really fails him here, or should. So he's sending, get this, he says the answer is more guards at the border. So he's sending 1,000 National Guard troops at the border. The comprehensive immigration legislation, reform legislation that President Obama has supported, which passed the Senate with 14 Republican votes, which John Boehner refuses to allow a vote on in the House, which would pass if Boehner would only, with enough Republicans and Democrats voting for it, if John Boehner would only allow a vote. that legislation would provide 22,000 new guards at the border. So if Republicans really feel that the answer is more people at the border, they would pass the comprehensive immigration reform bill. Number one. Number two, the problem, as we've seen with these 57,000 children who have crossed the border so far, 150 to even today who are crossing it every day, that's down from what it was in June at 350 a day, but still, it's a lot of kids coming across the border. The guards are not chasing them back. The problem is not that there are not enough guards. These kids want to be caught. The guards aren't having a hard time catching them. They don't need more help catching these kids. These kids are coming here because they want to be apprehended. They want to be detained. They want to stay in the United States. So, I mean, Rick Perry's just said, you know what, this is all about publicity, headline grabbing for 2016. But what I find, so we're stuck. We're stuck because John Boehner will not allow a vote on immigration reform, and so nothing is happening. He won't even allow a vote on the president's request for a supplemental. And what I just have to tell you, what I find so amusing about all of this is this is so deja vu for me. I've seen this before. 1994, in California, we always had a hard time getting Latinos involved in the political process. And we knew this was the fastest, potentially the biggest and the fastest growing segment of the electorate, but they just weren't connected. They weren't involved in politics at all. And I ran voter registration drives in East Los Angeles. Couldn't get them interested. In 1994, Pete Wilson, Republican governor, looking for re-election, endorsed Proposition 187, which was a nuclear bomb on the Latino community. It banned the state from providing any help at all to anybody who was here illegally. Anti-immigrant initiative. Pete Wilson supported it, endorsed it, and he woke up the sleeping giant. The Latino community came alive. They came out, millions of them came out and registered to vote. And guess what? They registered as Democrats. They voted as Democrats.
Weird how that happens.
Isn't it? Yeah, they knew who was their enemy. They learned, and not one Republican presidential candidate has carried California ever since. And today, the Republican Party almost doesn't exist in California. Well, my point is, today, John Boehner and national Republicans are making the same mistake. They're ignoring the Latino community, or like Ted Cruz, they're waging war on the Latino community. Yeah, Ted Cruz leading it. And you know what's going to happen? It's going to come back and bite them in the ass again and again and again and again. So, you know, that may be good for Democrats to see Republicans making the same mistake all over again, but it is not good for the Republican Party, and it's certainly not good for the country. Deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra said. Parting shot coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, there's only so much that the president can do on his own when Congress won't act. But President Obama took a big step yesterday, signing an executive order banning all contractors who work for the federal government from discriminating against their employees because of sexual orientation or gender identity. A victory not only for the LGBT community, but for all Americans. Already 18 states have banned discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Virginia, under Governor Terry McAuliffe, became the latest. That same protection for sure should apply to all 50 states, but Congress has had that bill in front of it for 40 years and has failed to act. So President Obama, in the end, had no choice. He did the right thing. He signed that executive order. And you know what? If Republicans don't like it, they could just sue him, and probably will. Have a great Tuesday, folks. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
Press Show.
Have a good